Hello and welcome to Happy Foot, Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast that... I'm Travis Hellwig.
I'm Vince LaRosa.
And I'm Darren Miller. Welcome to our preview episode of LAFC's MLS Decision Day match versus the San Jose Earthquakes on Saturday, October 19th at 6 p.m. at BMO Stadium. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV+, and you can watch our live post-game call-in show 10 minutes after the final whistle at youtube.com/@HappyFootSadFoot.
Later in the show, we'll have our end of the regular season mailbag, and of course, we'll cover all the storylines for this week's match and make some bets. But first, we negotiated it down from listener-mandated seppuku. It's time for listener-mandated banter. Darren, you're surprising me with that.
I don't take advantage of the fact that I write these scripts without you reading them until we're recording enough.
Seppuku. I did just start watching Shogun, and it's good. Everyone's right about it. It's good.
This is the FX show?
Yeah, it's like a samurai show. It won Best Drama at the Emmys.
So I made it through 1.5 episodes until I was like, I want to learn more about Japanese culture and what Japan was like pre-white man. So why do I want to care about the white man showing up? I don't know. I just felt like there was too much white man.
The through line of it is Protestant versus Catholic.
Yeah.
It's a show about
like,
the war between Protestants and Catholics, but it takes place in Japan.
Oh, weird.
Right. So like they couldn't help themselves. But very beautifully shot.
That's TV, baby.
And it does look really cool. I don't know where they shot it, but it definitely feels like they're literally in Japan. It's probably Vancouver. But
there's so many Japanese people involved in the production that it could have been shot in Japan.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's probably Vancouver.
Yeah, tax breaks. Come on,
Atlanta. They shot Atlanta for Japan.
It's in New Orleans.
Guys, we did it. We made it to the end of the season.
Wow.
This is the last preview for a regular season game. It was a long season.
This is, I don't know if we're going to get into this later, but I was actually looking at their schedule this season, and because last season I remember it felt like a real roller coaster too, but it was weird. Like you can very simply identify every month, the entire month was either good or bad, definitively.
That's funny.
It was like they sucked this month, and then they sucked this month, and then they were good these months, and then they sucked this month, and then that's their season. It's just like, it's really weird to be able to boil it down like that.
But remember last season where like they played so many games. There's so many games. And we pretty much punted on Open Cup last season, pretty much punted on Leagues Cup last season. I feel like they've although they went all the way to the final of what was the CONCACAF Champions League at the same time, like I feel like we played the same amount of games. So we have had back-to-back marathon seasons where it's been legit way too many games.
And we've talked about it before. The finals were in December. And then we were back in February, right? For preseason games. Like we had a month off between seasons. It's like a crazy slog.
Yeah.
But it's been a delight with you guys, huh? I'm ready to go to the playoffs with you.
Yeah. This is fun to do, and I'm excited for it to be even more fun now.
And our first full season with Vince.
Yeah.
Vince, do you still like us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to renew our contract? Are you going to renew yourself?
You're the GM.
Yeah. Do I have a team? Is it like a team option? What like is that the same salary or we have to renegotiate?
We work on reverse contracts here where we sign the number 10 and then the number 10 decides you hold all the cards.
I will say, unfortunately, though, your contract is decided by Twitter. And so,
well, I guess we'll have to wait to see the results. It's going to be it's going to be a long off season. Let's say that theoretically a new LAFC podcast has started, an expansion podcast, if you will. Mm-hmm. If there's an expansion draft, do you guys have to protect me and then possibly leave Darren open to being stolen by this expansion podcast? Mm-hmm. How does this work?
Yeah, if we overpay you, can we afford Darren? That's a good question.
I pay significantly to be on this podcast.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Darren does a lot more work than I do on this podcast. Like, when I say a lot, I should say it like this.
All I do is
a lot more work.
All I do is make up for the lack of actual input that I'm able to provide.
It is funny though, because me and Vince will constantly talk about how hard it is to do this show. And Darren, happy warrior, working until like 4 a.m. on this bullshit. And we're like, we don't have to do the post game for longer than 10 minutes, do we?
Yeah. So what we're saying is if there is an expansion draft, what's going to happen is Darren is going to secretly unprotect himself so that he doesn't
Mhm.
have to be on our show anymore and can join a show that maybe they have editors and people that actually do work.
If any LAFC podcast can afford an outside editor, I need to meet them and understand their business. Because we looked into it.
There have been times people are like, maybe we should go in on an editor, and then it's like, well, if we're both LAFC shows, we have the same schedule, so it will conflict every single time. They'd have to choose whose show to edit.
Also, we don't trust anybody else to edit this show.
That was listener mandated Inside Baseball.
Yeah.
Why don't we start the final show of the season? This is where we do the timestamp. If you want to switch to here, we keep saying we're going to do it.
Speaking of editing a lot, I'm going to have a lot of editing to do on this episode because we're cutting already.
Jesus Christ.
Guys, jump into the comments, see if you know what we cut.
This one's not interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's a lame one.
One of the worst.
All right, well, as the LAFC addict on this show still pretending not to have a problem, I speak for all the casuals who, of course, would never miss a match, but are obviously not such possessed zealots about our fandom that we'll spend all our time between matches obsessing over all the off-the-pitch drama, roster moves, league rules, tactics, rumors, and conspiracy theories that would keep us from our very important full-time jobs, family obligations, and a third thing people with real lives outside of LAFC fandom do, including me, because I'm one of those people like I mentioned before. We all have this under control and can stop anytime we want, and honestly don't even follow it that closely, which is why we need Travis, the human LAFC crazy wall, to come here each week with a fresh supply of LAFC and shoot it directly into our veins, like we're Jared Leto in a movie that could not possibly hold up in 2024, and or possibly Jared Leto in real life. By the way, has anyone heard from Jared Leto lately? He normally doesn't shut up, and we haven't heard from him in a while. I genuinely hope he's okay. Wait, never mind, looks like he's in the news for saying something controversial at a 30 Second to Mars concert in Belgrade. All is well. Now we can catch up on all the most important storylines that live beneath the surface of each week's match, so we can all enjoy it so much more in a segment we call Storylines.
The Storylines remix, of course, done by the insane team of 30 Seconds to Mars. Darren, Vince, Dince, I come to you on the final game of the regular season with our first storyline of the match of the regular season. You could tell I've stopped writing these as
We're
tightly.
all so lost on the map that is this season.
Which is this: can we win first in the West? Decision Day is this Saturday, and Decision Day is the most fun regular season weekend of the year. All the games are played at exactly the same time, so no one can game out what seed they are depending on how other people performed, and everyone is fighting to make their playoff seeding as high as possible. So while we play San Jose at home, the real question revolves around the Galaxy in Houston. So here's where we stand, right? We are currently 3 points behind the Galaxy. We have no more games in hand. We each have one game left to play. They have 64 points. We have 61. And so if the Galaxy lose and we win, we will be tied. If the Galaxy win in Houston, a notoriously difficult place to play, all of the rest of this is moot. We don't have to talk about it at all. If the Galaxy win, they control their own destiny. It's fine. But we know, well, it's not fine. We come in second, which is a bummer. But we're going to assume, for the sake of this conversation, that the Galaxy go to Houston. It's still hot. It's a difficult place to play against a Houston team that also really wants to win. Houston is fighting to hold on to the 5th spot, with Minnesota and Colorado just a point and 2 points behind, ready to drop Houston to 7th if Houston loses. So let's say Houston plays the game of their lives and beats the Galaxy. We beat San Jose. That also has to happen for us to win first in the West. What happens then? Well, in a void, we have 64 points. The Galaxy have 64 points. We are tied. If it's tied, we go to wins next. And wins, the Galaxy have 19. We would then have 19 after that win. We're tied again. We go to goal differential next, okay? And this is where it gets interesting. Darren, are you with us still? You're muted, Darren.
Oh, sorry. I was muted because I'm not with you. I'm gone.
Yeah, that makes more
You
sense.
lost me
He was
already.
muted. He was doing other things.
What part did you get?
My mic automatically mutes when my brain mutes.
Is there any part you actually want me to re-explain, or are you just making a joke?
No, I think I get it.
Okay.
Galaxy, let's recap.
No, please
Galaxy
don't.
are up by 3 points. So if they
Yes.
tie or win, it's over?
If they tie or win, it's over. Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So we win,
If-
they lose. We have the same amount of goals, wins.
It
We have the
goes
same
to
amount of
goal
wins.
differential.
Goal
Here's
differential.
where the goal differential stands right now. And for those of you who don't know what goal differential is, it's just you take all the goals you scored in the year, all the goals scored against you, and you add them together. Goals scored against you are subtracted, obviously. And so we are up 18 plus 18, which means we scored 18 more goals than goals have been scored on us. And they are up 20. However, with a loss, they inevitably will lose at least one in their goal differential, and we inevitably will gain at least one. So if we win by one and then they lose by one, we are again tied. So the baseline that you need to understand is we have to win by 2 to win first in the West, and the Galaxy have to lose, or the Galaxy lose by 2 and we win. If for some reason we win by 1 and the Galaxy lose by 1, it goes to goals scored, and they are way ahead of us on that. Any questions, boys?
Yes.
Oh no.
How far is way ahead? Because we've also got Bouanga going for the Golden Boot.
No.
If he's going to get that.
No.
8. They are 8 goals ahead of us.
Okay, so Bouanga scores 9 goals, gets the Golden Boot.
He would need less than that because they had lost. So he would need 7, right? And that's to tie.
Okay. All right, that's what I'll be thinking of,
Right.
guys.
There is no world in which they lose, we win, and we need 9 goals because you're already well past it because you've already beaten the goal differential. So yes, Darren, as much as that would be great, don't really need it.
Because they still need to lose.
Honestly,
right.
goals scored don't really matter. Because to make up 8 goals scored, again, the goal differential would have already been adjusted properly, and then it'll be done.
Okay.
So my question for this storyline for both of you is, let's say we don't get first, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're second. Most likely we're going to end up second. A lot of things have to happen for us to get first. The Galaxy are a much better team than Houston as well. I'm still holding out hope. Don't worry. But let's say we get second. Here are the teams we could face in the first round of the playoffs. The Houston Dynamo, the Colorado Rapids, the Minnesota Loons, Minnesota United, and the Vancouver Whitecaps. Those are the teams it's possible for us to play. Those are the only ones that could get the 7th seed right now, because Portland will not be able to beat the 49 points that they need to get up to it because they have fewer wins. I've gone through it. It's annoying. So those are the teams we could play. Again, a 3-game series to start. Of those teams, who would you most want to play? Houston, Colorado, Minnesota, Vancouver. No matter what, we have to play at least one game at their stadium.
Minnesota.
Tell us why.
They don't really know what they are. They kind of are a mismatch of pieces. I think that they're an okay team, and I think they could be a good team going forward. But when it comes to the playoffs, being a good team is not good enough. You need to have match winners. And when you look at that Minnesota lineup, there's not a guy of the quality of a Denny Bouanga or even like a Kai Kamara, like a guy that you really can count. You got to score goals. You got to score goals to win in the playoffs. And I just don't see it. They have a decent goalie. Dane St. Clair could theoretically be the type of goalie that gets really hot, and so maybe they win some games 1-0, but you don't like the turf in Vancouver. I don't love it, although we do play very well against them. But, they'll have Ryan Gauld back. Allegedly, Stuart Armstrong will be healthy, so that's some quality injected into them. Obviously, going to altitude in Colorado, don't love it. Going to the Heat or possible Heat in Houston, and I think Houston is a legit good team. Like, they've been together long enough. The core of that team has been together for almost about 2 years now, so they really know each other. So I think if you're doing the old, MLS Next Pro, we get to pick our opponent. My pick would be Minnesota.
And you think Houston would be the worst case scenario for us?
Houston or Colorado. I don't like going to play in altitude, especially with the way that LAFC's, we've kind of said they have to play, like they have to kind of run and gun, and that as the game gets stretched, I just don't like that. Late in games, weird things happen in the playoffs.
Darren, who would you want to play in the first round?
You're going to be surprised to hear this, but give me Vancouver. I've horseshoed around. This last game made me 180. Did not want to even look at or think about Vancouver all season. I was so sick of them, and now I want nothing more than to play them again. It was so fun. At this point, Sartini made it so clear how in his head we are and how much it affects him that we have his number at the end of that match that I just want to see him suffer. It's so fun.
I do think that Vancouver is not a bad pick here. We've played them so much. We do know them. But as you were talking,
they
I'm
totally
like, you
had
forget
us
about the
completely
second
beaten,
half.
and we still beat them.
Say, yeah. The second half was rough, and I don't know if they could play a better half. I mean, they were missing two of their best players, though, right? If not more. I mean, we were as well.
So were we.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, Vince sort of convinced me that maybe Minnesota is the way to go here. But yeah, a lot of these teams are good. I don't want to play Houston. I don't want to play Colorado. I think Minnesota and Vancouver are the choices that we have to live with. Okay. So that's where everything stands going into decision day. We have to beat San Jose to get first. If we don't, we're going to play one of those teams. I mean, we'll play one of those teams anyways if we get first, but Portland's added to the mix as well. And that brings us to our second storyline of the week. And it's this. As we head into San Jose, or San Jose comes home, there's an important goal scoring aspect to our team that I think needs to be addressed. And the storyline is this. Who will score first in Major League Soccer play? Carlos Vela or Olivier Giroud? Carlos Vela was scheduled to come back last week by all accounts. They even posted about it on their Instagram. Something happened within 24 hours. They pulled the plug. There's a world in which, I really hope he's coming back this game. I don't want him to play his first game in the playoffs. I think that's scary. I think he needs some reps. I have a feeling we'll see him against San Jose. And so there's a world in which we're going to get a Carlos Vela goal, which we haven't seen in over a year now. Olivier Giroud, on the other hand, has played many games with us. He's playing around 70 minutes every game for us. He's come close a few times. He's had 2 goals called back from offsides. He scored twice in non-Major League Soccer play, but we have yet to see a goal from Olivier Giroud in Major League Soccer. Knowing we're going into a run with both of them available, who do you think will score first for our team this season? Carlos Vela or Olivier Giroud? Darren, I want your answer first.
I think it's Giroud. He's so close. And I have to believe that if he's not starting, he'll probably come in before Vela. I would assume that if Vela's coming in, he's going to be coming in hot. So, it's kind of just a race to whoever gets the first shot at it. It'll be Giroud.
Vince?
But I definitely don't think it's unlikely for Vela if he comes in to score.
Especially in a game where we need goals. We're going to be trying it. There's no downside about pushing for goals in this game, right? If we lose, nothing happens. We're second. So we're just going to be fucking throwing goals.
Oh, shit. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Sure.
Vince, what do you think?
I mean, it's Giroud. As much as it's been frustrating that Giroud hasn't scored more because we figured he would just be plug and play and we'd be flying and it'd be awesome and there'd be baguettes everywhere. But we really don't know anything about Carlos Vela. Other than them teasing, we haven't. I mean, I would assume that if they're teasing that he is close, and if he's close, regardless of him being his name being Carlos Vela, the coaching staff has confidence in him and he's playing well enough. If he was completely out of shape and not even remotely, if this was what some people are surmising, just we just wanted you to show up for the last game of the season because we wanted to send you off. I just don't. That doesn't really jive with me though either. But I don't know where Carlos is, and we have seen little bits of Giroud adding more and more to his game. I want to stress we've still barely gotten to see him with the full 11. It seems like every week he was playing, something else was changed. A different guy was out of the lineup or a guy was injured. But with the full 11, with kind of the eye towards the playoffs, I just think that that's when Giroud really will start to step up, and you would hope the guys around him would step up. And in that instance, he's going to be in and around the box and he's going to be finishing chances. Whereas Carlos is going to have to first get into the game, let alone be anywhere near the goal to score.
Giroud also does show up in cup games, which is important to his 2 goals have both been in cup finals. Okay. So I'm going to have a third storyline in a second, but I'm realizing now none of them have anything to do with San Jose. So Vince, I want you to talk to us a little bit about the team we're playing this weekend. I know that they're the worst team in the league. What do we need to know about them besides that?
They're the worst team in the league, man. They're broken. Like they're just a mismatch of parts. Like you look at some guys like Jeremy Abobasi or Hernan Lopez, and you say like those are decent players, but they've just never been able to put any kind of structure around them. And then they just get like raced off the pitch. Like they can't defend. Their goalkeeping is not very good. So as much as you say like, oh, I think they could do some things, it doesn't matter if they're already down 2 or 3 goals before they can actually make an impact in a game. That being said, it's still MLS. Like the gap between the very worst team and the very best team in MLS is very different than, let's say, England, where the very worst team is so much worse. So they can still be dangerous, but ultimately this is not a good team. They haven't been a good team. They had that little flicker of life when they beat us at Levi's Stadium, but otherwise they were never really in this season. And you kind of start to feel bad for like the 5 San Jose fans that are there. You know, they so badly show up every week, and maybe one day they'll build that other side of the stadium. I don't know if you guys have been there, but like the stadium's just open. It's like it's 3-sided, like it's a horseshoe, and then the other side just like completely open. Yeah, it's
like
very
a Boy
weird.
Scout lean-to.
Yeah, it's very odd. Like it's you go there and you get to one side of the stadium, you're like, this is a pretty good looking stadium. And then you look across the way and you go, wait, were you guys gonna put stands on that other side and like close it off, or did we run out of seats, run out of cement? It's a weird place. Like it could be a good stadium. I think it has something to do with the airport being so close, but also like don't build it so close to an airport.
Darren, remind us again the lore of Q, their mascot.
Oh yes, Q. So glad you asked. Their mascot is a weird blue alien, technically, but it's like a blue dude.
Mm-hmm.
Who I believe the lore is that he was found wandering around after the wreckage of an earthquake.
He's an unhoused person, right?
I guess so.
Wait,
well,
is
an
it
unhoused
an
alien.
It's an alien.
I think
but his house was destroyed.
Yeah.
Like Superman?
And he was living mostly off of blueberries. And that's why he's blue, I guess. And
So
I guess the team took him in.
Is he an alien or is he blue because of the blueberries?
The lore that I read sort of half-heartedly offers both as possibilities.
Okay. But he's also an unhoused person who lost his house in an earthquake and he was found amongst wreckage.
Yeah, I read the one place I found any sort of background, it was written as if it was being pitched to a boss as a first draft. I was like, maybe this should be our lore.
And now he's QAnon.
And he just walks around doing his own research.
So is he technically a slave of the team?
Oh, interesting. Is San Jose engaged in slave? No, I think it's like he was adopted.
Yeah, and now he lives.
They trot him out, and I mean, does he have a home now?
Yeah, he was adopted.
Does he get paid? Does he have a home? Yeah,
That's
the
real question. Does he get paid? You know, I hope he gets paid.
Is it like a Dobby the house elf situation? Okay, moving on to our final storyline of the week, and it's this. This is our last game of the season. Regardless of what happens this Saturday, I know losing to the worst team in the league would be a real heartbreaker, but again, it doesn't actually matter at all if we lose to them. We can play insane soccer on Saturday and we'll still be second. Like the totality of the season doesn't change. But that brings me to my last storyline of the game, and it's this. Was this regular season a success for LAFC? 2 years ago, in 2022, we were first in the West with 67 points. Last year, and I thought we were first in the West because we went to MLS Cup, and I looked it up, and no, we were third in the West with just 52 points. We were third. Mm-hmm. We were behind St. Louis. That's what I'm thinking of. St. Louis had that like insane season, and Seattle, and then we are third with 52 points. This season, we already have 61. We should have 64 by the end of this weekend, just 3 points below that 2022 season. This season has been rough at times. There were 2 really bad down stretches in those periods of time. A lot of fans were calling for change within the organization. They were calling for the heads of our head coach. Do you think even if we lose this weekend, this regular season was a success for the club? I'll hang up so I can listen.
Anytime you can go into the playoffs with a trophy already in hand, it's got to be a success. And you're still going to the playoffs. I guess there is a world in which like KC wins that US Open Cup and they're not going to the playoffs and they're like, this was a success. And their fans are like, you sure about that? Like, we're not totally happy with this, but like being able to get close to where they were also as much as it's going to, and I know people are going to scream at me. You went to the final Leagues Cup. I know you lost it, but you went to the final Leagues Cup. Like you played a lot of good soccer. I don't think, and people will say, well, then they should have won the Supporter Shield. Look at what Miami's doing. They are possibly going to be able to set the record for points. Clearly, they were probably not going to be caught. Like this is an anomaly. They are unreachable. And what they did is something kind of special. So I don't think it's, I mean, obviously you want to be there in that Supporter Shield conversation. And LAFC very much were for a large part of the season. But eventually Miami pulls away. And as I said, they're doing something special. But to be near first place, you can't drop any lower than second. You go to a final, you win a different final, the most important final, as we've said, of any in-season tournament. You have to say it's a success. Now, how much more you can add to it, you got to do something in the playoffs. You got to make some noise. And I think for this fan base, that very much is not just going to the final. Like you're going to have to win MLS Cup to really put a bow on it and have everyone say like, that's a super memorable year. But regardless, they won a trophy and a lot of people got to be there in the stadium for it. I would never eschew the chance to celebrate a trophy on your home field. You don't always get that chance. And we might not even get that chance if LAFC wins MLS Cup. So I got to say it's a total success this season.
Darren?
I think it's very safe to say it's a total that the regular season is a success. Yes. I think we'll see how the playoffs goes if we're going to look back after the playoffs and say the whole thing was a success. I feel like I could go either way on that depending on how that goes down.
Leaving the playoffs out of it, just thinking about the length of the season. It's crazy that we could have been the amount of points we could have had if we found form in those two slumps, right? Like if we only had one slump, we would be up there with Miami, right? We had 2 months where we couldn't find a win. Like we were searching for it. And I'm looking at the standings now. We only have 3 teams ahead of us in the entire league, one of which in Columbus, we could still land above them. And they're at 63. If they lose to the Red Bulls, we could jump ahead of them if we win. And then we could also jump ahead of the Galaxy. So there's a world in which come Saturday night, we are second in all of Major League Soccer. A lot of things have to happen for that to be true. I don't think that's what will happen. But even if we didn't win US Open Cup, this season was crazy successful. We won so many games, and we're only, if we win on Saturday, we're only 3 points outside of our Supporter Shield winning 67 from 2 years ago, right? Like, by all metrics, this was a successful team. It doesn't always feel that way when it's frustrating, and sometimes we play ugly soccer. But like anyone leaving this, I guess if we lose in the first round, people are going to be calling for Steve Cherundola's job again. But like, there's a world in which we come in second in Major League Soccer still. It is an unmitigated success. We know that this was a good season. Regardless of if we win another trophy, it's always hard to win a trophy. So I think we just need to put a bow on all the conversations about what success meant for us this year. We've won a trophy and we've had an incredible regular season. Let's go try to win one more thing. But this regular season, no matter how it felt at times and even recently, is a crazy success. And I think we have to remember that moving forward. We did much better this year than last year, points wise.
Yeah, no one else. So there's 3 trophies that have been handed out. They've all been won by different teams. So it's not like Columbus has racked up 2 trophies to our 1. As much as Miami has been very good, they didn't go to any finals this season, not even the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Columbus has been to 2 finals. We have as well. We've both won a final each. Like, to your guys' point, like this season has been an interesting season with a lot of good teams, and LAFC has to be considered one of the best among them. I mean, the sport is naturally parity driven. Like soccer is a low scoring sport. So there's always a chance that like the better team doesn't win. But then we're also on top of that in a league that reinforces the parity through its structure. So I don't think there's ever going to be a team that's going to be, I mean, maybe in the future, just by and large, just so much better than everyone else. But right now, as I said, there are 3, maybe 4-ish teams that are really good in this league, and LAFC has to be absolutely considered one of them.
I think there are 2 things that made that conversation a little complicated over the course of the season. The first is that our start was like bafflingly terrible. So that made people like ready to be like, whoa, we got to gear up for a shit season. Like, what's going on here? And then we came around and it became clear that we are as good as we are. But then when we started losing again and we went on a slump, the nature of those losses were also baffling in a way that was like, we're clearly capable of winning these games and we're shitting the bed. And that was really particularly frustrating, more so than like if we were just playing at our level and our level wasn't quite there. And so then those valleys were very strange valleys and timed in a way that made it like reasonable to be like, what the fuck is going on here? And then when we were peaking, like it wasn't just like, oh, we found our form. We went on like really good winning streaks that more than made up for it.
We're currently on one.
Yeah.
Well, I think we just always, the people like to pay attention to the negative in sports. So I just want to remind people when things are good
that we're good
this season. Like there's going to be a stretch of time where you're a fan of this team where we're very bad season over season over season. And that hasn't yet happened to this club. And so just remember to enjoy it while it's happening. Those are the storylines for this week's group of matches and this season, I guess. When we come back, we're going to take your mailbag questions. Wow, I loved those commercials. Wow. I really enjoyed those commercials.
Whatever they were great. I personally endorse all of them.
My dad does B2B marketing. That's the one that I always hear. My dad does B2B marketing.
I don't listen to the show, so.
Never heard a minute.
I hear it's good. We got some mailbags. Thank you for everyone who wrote in. A lot of people wrote in. We won't necessarily get to everyone. That means we hate you.
Yeah. That's the one rule that we have clearly defined in
it's personal.
All
Take it personally.
Yeah.
It's because of how we feel about you
as
a person.
We'll be out of the tailgate this final game of the season. If you don't get your question answered, go right up to our face, like 2 inches away, and ask your question.
And we probably won't answer, and it will be because of how we feel about you personally. All right. Do you guys want to start with roster stuff? Match play or league stuff, or personal or fun stuff?
Don't tease me, Darren. Roster stuff. I feel like I got to build up to that.
So, are you saying roster stuff?
I'm just saying, like, how long is this mailbag gonna go? Because if you get me right to roster stuff, I might not be able to hang on for the rest of it.
I was wondering. I was like, is roster stuff your foreplay, or is the non-roster stuff your foreplay?
It's
Matty
Bogu scoring in the first 30 seconds. That's all I'm saying.
There's a question on here that is so spicy, and I want to say it to Vince.
Oh no. Okay.
So
we're going to start with a hot one.
I actually haven't looked at, can I just say I haven't really looked at any questions. So
I compiled all these, but haven't really looked at them either. So Travis, definitely go if you got one.
Yeah.
This is from Scott, and this is on match play league stuff. If you're educated around the league structure, you know it's built for parity, which for 3 years in a row, Dolo has created championship caliber teams for our league. Vince, I'm adding your name. Can you speculate on how the Dolo out crowd became so spoiled?
Wow.
Oh no.
Scott trying to get us fucking stabbed.
Yeah. Oh man, Scott. Are you gonna personally guarantee my safety at the tailgate? Because I may need bodyguards. I do. I have a general theory, and this may or may not be true. And if you're listening and you're like, he's talking about me, then maybe I am. I had a general theory that I brought up, and this doesn't just pertain to LAFC fans. This is general, like fans of like newer teams. I think a lot of people that followed the game, and I'm not saying that this makes you less of a fan, but you follow the game and you probably like a Barcelona or Real Madrid or Manchester United, who was not so good now. But I'm just thinking of the teams that were like good when I was growing up and that my friends are fans of. And you've been like, well, those teams have always won. And so I expect LAFC to win because they came in and said like, we're going to win, which that one drives me crazy when people say like, well, the team promises they're going to win. I was like, so in what world is there a team that shows up to their press conference and goes like, hey guys, just so you know, we're going to try our best.
We're here for advertising. We're here to sell jerseys with an ad on it.
Yeah, but at the end
We're
of the
really
day,
excited about this investment
don't
opportunity.
hold it
for these
against us
rich
if we
people.
don't win. And you know what? We're just going to be happy to be anywhere we can be in terms of playoffs and or we're not going to go out and give our best. Like that just drives me crazy. Every single team. I mean, Cincinnati showed up, won the gold or the wooden spoon 3 years in a row, and I guarantee you that go back to their first press conferences, and I bet you they say like we're putting together a championship caliber team.
Let's get one thing straight. We're excited to be in this league for one reason and one reason
Right.
only, and that's to build a really great academy system.
But to Scott's point, like parity is built into this league. And as much as like, yes, we have nice things here, nicer than some places. And I love the pride that a lot of people take in Los Angeles. So they're like, we should be the best. I'm not sure that they're equating things properly when they're saying like, I love Real Madrid. Why can't LAFC be like Real Madrid? There's not a world in which that's possible. Like Real Madrid literally gets themselves into problems and then gets themselves out of problems by spending so much money you wouldn't believe. Like it's ridiculous. And it's the same reason why when people say like, you should fire Steve and go get someone else. Like, yes, Real Madrid can fire their coach after losing 2 games because then they can turn to Zinedine Zidane or Carlo Ancelotti and say, hey, would you like to come coach Real Madrid? And they're like, of course I would. I hate to break it to you, LAFC, not in that stratosphere, not even close to in that stratosphere. As much as I love the team and again, have pride in it, like it's just not sustainable and they just can't do it the same way some of these teams do. And I think that's my general theory of some of it. And then the other thing is just like people want to win things. It doesn't feel good to lose. I get it. I don't want to feel that way. And so they get mad and they lash out and they're like, well, fuck it. Get somebody that can win.
I mean, I disagree with you, Vince. I don't think they're spoiled. I know that you think that they're spoiled. I don't think they're spoiled.
Well, maybe spoiled is the wrong word.
I was joking because you didn't say
No, I knew
that
you were
in the
joking,
question.
but also maybe spoiled is the wrong word.
It was in
like
the question.
It's just like
You didn't even say it.
It's this like I don't know, very. And I don't even think it's an LA thing. I think it's just a fan thing. They're just
No,
like, my
I think
team's
it's
the
an
best.
LA thing. That actually is my answer here, right? Like it is LA fans, and this is coming from someone who is now a fan of most LA teams. There is a level of expectation for victory that is not normal. And it's
Yep,
because
that's true.
LA teams always win. Why do they always win? Because it's the most pleasant place to live in the United States. And so people want to come here and make a bunch of money and be in Hollywood and live somewhere nice. And so you get a competitive advantage because people want to come play here in a big market, and living in New York fucking sucks. And I say that as someone who was like, LeBron's going to come to the Knicks while I was living in New York. Like it's no one he wants to live in Miami. He wants to live in LA.
Right.
No one like is seeking out, even though there's the most money to be made in New York because it's the biggest market. No one wants to live there. LA is almost as big of a market, but it's a wonderful place to live. And so people who are Dodger fans and Laker fans are used to always being at least having the biggest stars coming to their team, right? And so that translates over to other sports here. And we are a very winning team. We are the most winning team in Los Angeles, maybe not this season, but over the last decade for sure. And big stars are coming here. We're going to get more next year. It's just, I think there's an expectation to win every game because we play one a week. and you're like, this is the one that matters.
Actually, you're making a lot of sense because this is another thing that I've thought about. That I've always kind of felt is funny is like going into games, like a lot of these fans will be like, of course we're going to kill them. Like we're so good. Like, I don't even know why that team's showing up. And then when the team loses, they're so upset. They're like, these guys fucking suck. But then they have to find one person to pin it on. And it in any sport, it just goes to the coach because you're like, I went into this game with expectations that my team is so good because we have so many stars. And if they lose, it can't possibly be because my team's bad. It's because someone fucked up. And there's only one person to point a finger at a lot of times. I will say this. There's been a lot of research on like what makes a soccer team good. And ultimately, it's money. It's not coaches. Like there are some very smart people, much smarter than me, that have done some research on this and have started to say like, what does a coach actually do? Like how much does a coach, like they've tried to quantify it. Like how much can a good coach add or take away from your season? And they've kind of figured out that like a bad coach can really fuck you up, like make your team really bad. But a good coach maybe adds a couple points a season. Doesn't actually do the things that I think we ascertain a lot of blame and or success to coaches that maybe need to be spread out a little bit more than what is reality.
Well, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, wouldn't you say that if we are spoiled, we're spoiled with the resources that theoretically is what you need to win. So if we have those advantages and we have the money and we have the players, the higher expectations are justified, no?
Sure. But I don't think that means that you then look and say, like, there's one person that fucked it up.
No, maybe not. But at the same time, if you're saying the bar can be here with the resources that we have and we don't meet that bar, then theoretically it's reasonable to think that with other people involved, we still have those same resources and can meet that bar because we should be able to.
But the structure of the league, it's not just a bar that we're reaching so much higher and above. Like the floor is also so much closer. So like in Europe, when Real Madrid spends this much, the team that's in 20th place, unlike MLS, when they're like spending close to that much here with Real Madrid, it's like they're not even close. It's not like it's not even a blip. So
there's like a lot less teams to beat up on.
Right. And there's just not the embarrassment of riches is not the same in our league compared to other leagues and other leagues, and that's by design.
All right.
Yep. I feel like judging by the length of that, we can do 2 more, even though we got sent a lot of questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna be.
Let's try to do some like
watching
super
my
quickly
back
and see what happens.
Yeah, do we got rapid fire ones?
Jeff Talk, more of a comment than a question.
As is his nature.
No, this is him trying to win back points. I keep meaning to bring up how great it is that we have Pride Republic. I think it's easy to take for granted that gay people feel like they have a stake in the team and the fan base. That's not guaranteed and would have generally seemed unthinkable when I was growing up. It speaks really highly of the team and the players, and we would all be worse off without Pride Republic as a supporter group. I think we all agree with that, and it's a good point. We don't talk about it enough how rad that is. He then adds, also, which LAFC player is most likely to be a serial killer?
Yeah, he realized that he fucked up character-wise and said something genuine and nice, and he had to recover real quick.
Serial killer. Does it have to be current?
Which LAFC is
why do you have someone in
LAFC
mind
that's
not on the team that definitely would be?
McCarthy.
No, he's serial killer. He's not smart enough to be a serial killer.
It's too loud.
I don't think serial killers are necessarily smart at all.
In order to kill multiple people and get away with it, you have to be somewhat intelligent, I think.
I think you can.
I think you're giving too much credit to police.
With a little bit of luck, you can get
That's a good point.
A handful in.
You only have to be smarter than the dumbest people in your high school to get away with murder. Sorry, Darren. I know you back the blue.
No, yeah, I think when people have that sickness and it becomes like an obsession and a need, then you're not dealing with a normal situation. All it takes is like, someone who decides not to lock their door or some shit. People can get away with it.
Honestly, Maxime Chanot. I don't need to explain it. I think it's Maxime Chanot.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Just off vibe.
Right?
There's no good vibes in this conversation at all. Except if we go back to fully agree with what he said about Pride Republic.
We're talking about something important. Who's the serial killer on the team?
Right now?
I mean, let's say of all time. You just need to name one that you think could be.
It's Walker. He's American Psycho. He's like just too good looking.
He's got a sheen to him.
B-Rod?
Yeah, there's just something about him where he's just like he's so disappointed in the rest of the humanity around him. He's like, I can't stand it.
B-Rod has a lot of pent up frustration. I think you're right, Darren. Maybe he needs to work it out.
B-Rod's like too chiseled. You know what I mean?
But do you think he would miss?
he would like.
He can't finish the job.
He would get really close to killing, and then at the last moment choke. You're right. So it can't be him.
I'm sorry. They had you said one stab wound and then recovered fully.
Oh,
well, he swung 37 times.
He swung 30, and he hit the bone every single time. He just kept hitting the bone. All right. I think that's a good enough response to that. We gave that too much.
Someone asked players that we might lose. There's like I'll say there's a thread on this. That maybe we can like catch the rest in one fell swoop, which is people are asking about thoughts on what we might need to do next year, but then also like there's a lot of players with contracts up. If I remember reading these correctly, there's a lot of players with contracts up at the end of this year. So there's kind of like it's happening in both directions. Again, I guess I'll say.
I think
so. Who do you think is most likely to go at the end of this season? I think that's a good way to
Yeah.
I think there's one big one, and I think it's a big decision from both. Ilie Sanchez is going to be a free agent. Ilie Sanchez is an incredible human being, an incredible captain, an incredible player, incredible presence on this team. But I think we all agree, like, his season has been hit or miss, whether it's been through injury, age, too many minutes on his legs. He's not the Ilie Sanchez from that 2022 season, not even really the Ilie Sanchez from the 2023 season. And if you think about what a contract is, you're paying for a future you're paying someone, you're actually paying someone like based off past performance with an eye toward the future, right? So he's going to want to maximize the amount of money he can get, and you're going to look at him and say, well, we've seen an actual decline in your output, despite the fact that, again, all those other things, the captain attributes, the great guy in the dressing room, great guy in the community. Is there going to be a middle ground that they're going to come to? Because I think that Ilie should absolutely maximize the amount of money he makes and not take any kind of hometown discount just because he wants to be here. That being said, LAFC should also try to get a player at a number where they can build around him because he's not contributing the same way he's doing. I don't know the answer to that, but I think that that's a big one. That's going to be a really tough decision either way, to be honest.
Who else is out of contract at the end of the season?
This is sad enough that it's
I believe Aaron Long is out of contract.
Who is?
Aaron Long. I believe Murray.
Jeff Talk will love that.
Well, but then when you start to think that, I think Murray's out of contract. I think a lot of the defense is coming out of contract. So you're going to have to keep somebody. Like, you're going to have to try to have some continuity back there.
And we could talk about this probably later, maybe after the playoffs, but there is the expansion draft this offseason too. Right. So on top of players who are free agents, we also can only protect 12 players and they can snatch someone from our team, right?
That was another question.
Yeah, I feel like we'll probably have to talk about it more as it gets closer. So I don't know if we have to answer that right now.
Yeah, this is like a better postseason conversation. But yeah, that's why I just want to put that out there. I think Ilie is like the biggest question mark because there's just so many directions you're pulled in with him. But you can honestly say, like, he's probably was signed at like around, upwards of, he's a TAM player, I think. Would you make him a TAM player again?
It's like, it's so hard because he kind of became the Carlos Vela, right? Mm-hmm. And he was also I don't want to talk about this too much because we're about to go into a game. We're about to go into the playoffs. It's like, he just scored the winning goal. I don't need to talk about losing. I agree with you. That's probably the hardest thing. It's just such a bummer to imagine losing. Like, Chiellini brought like a heart and a joy, and Ilie Sanchez kept that joy going, right? Like Vela, Chiellini, and Sanchez, I think all have this like spark of happy energy. And it would just be a bummer to lose that guy who's been so solid. And when you watch Ilie Sanchez after he scored that goal, after initially celebrating, he sees Nathan Ordaz celebrating and he makes it all about Nathan Ordaz. And that's the fucking leadership that you lose when you lose a guy like Ilie Sanchez. Yeah. Like a guy that's going like, I just won this game and I know it means more to you.
I bring it up not to like be like, not to like cause controversy, but because of the utmost respect I like have from him. And this is, again, going back to the very first question about parity, this is only brought on by the structure of MLS. If he's playing for a team in England and they're like, this is our guy, we love him in the dressing room, they find a way because they don't have to fit him under any kind of salary cap. They can find a way to find the money to make him happy and keep club legends. I think that is a conversation that we had, as you said, with Vela. And I think that MLS has to look at it. I don't like the whole like, well, you could have one guy. Like, teams should have club legends and they should have the ability to continue to have guys, even if it does go outside the salary structure. So I don't know what the answer is for the league as a whole, but it's not good. I don't think it's good optics for like Nico Ladero to be playing in Orlando. I don't like it. And if Ilie goes and plays for another team next season, it's just not good. It's just not good for the league. It's not good for clubs. Like, we want guys that like kids growing up will be like, oh, I remember watching that guy my entire like teen years or my adolescent years, and that's my favorite player in the entire world, and he only played for LAFC at that time.
If you look at like Kai Kamara and the fact that he's like this journeyman who's been on every team, it's amazing he's here, but at the same time, it's like, damn, like think about what that guy could have meant to one team if he had been with one team that whole time. Right.
I think this is a fun last question to end on. who has been the most surprising player of this season, and why is it Kai Kamara or Maxime Chanot? I do think, right, well, probably it's one or the other, but
Is it?
I mean, well, let's talk about it. Who do you think
Chanot
is the
doesn't
most?
surprise me. Kai Kamara
Yeah,
does.
Chanot isn't that surprising.
I don't know.
Chanot
I didn't
happened
think
to follow through on what we had hoped he would be.
Look, I can understand if he's surprising to you, to a fan, because maybe you didn't follow him as closely as I did when he was in New York. Like, he was an incredible defender in New York. He was with Alexander Collins, who is also an incredible defender. So in a lot of ways, he was overshadowed. But he's kind of just brought the same presence and steadiness that he's always had. So I guess that's why it doesn't surprise me. Like, he's just the player that I initially thought. But if you didn't really know much about him, and then the way he came in and righted the ship for LAFC, yeah, I can absolutely understand why you're like, that guy's incredible. How come he wasn't on the team from the very start of the season? Or why wasn't he playing big minutes for some other MLS team? Then I understand that. But Kai Kamara is like, seeing him run as much as he does and at his age, and seeing his physical abilities not really go down, I was like many people were, and I got to give Max Brettos credit where he's like, he's not just coming here to just fill in the numbers. And I'm like, Max, it kind of feels like he's coming here to fill in the numbers until Giroud gets here. But clearly, like, went a step above and has, and a lot of times, look better than Giroud physically on the field. So that surprises me.
Darren, who do you think it is?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Kai. I think he even has like given lip service to that, to being like, yeah, I was only here to fill in the numbers. Like, it's almost like, I don't know that he surprised himself, but he was able to do a lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And it seems clear that no one was asking him to do more than that. So I don't know that that's true of any other player on that field.
Well, there is one answer that I think it seems. Go for yours, but maybe you're going to say the name that I'm going to say.
I mean, there's two names that I think we take for granted now that we did not necessarily think were as good as they are at the end of last season. And that's Kike Oliveira and Mateus Bogusz, both players who ended last season decent, right? But Mateus Bogusz has shown flashes of like superstardom at times, like incredible goals, incredible passing, almost caught Denny Bouanga in scoring, despite Denny Bouanga scoring getting most of his goals from PKs, right? Like, Bogusz was good last year. I don't think any of us saw how good he was this year coming, right? And Kike Oliveira last year, there was maybe like one game where he seemed pretty decent in the playoffs, but it was this sort of vibe of like, well, he's not there yet. Let's hope he gets there. And after a rough beginning of the season, has just like flashed with brilliance consistently. And when he came back from overseas or his injury or wherever he was gone for a bit, the team just felt like it was clicking again. And I think like those two guys, while we don't think of them as surprising because they've been on the team for a while, we did not know how good those guys were at the end of last year. Obviously, John Thorrington thought so, but the leaps that both of them made this season, especially in the absence of Carlos Vela, have been unbelievable. I think probably Mateus Bogusz more than Oliveira. I just didn't think Bogusz was that good. And I think he's one of the best players in Major League Soccer now.
I remember at the end of last season treating Oliveira as a full-on bust. Like, we put him in the same category as...
We liked Fufu more.
Yeah, Mario Gonzalez. It's like, oh, those guys didn't work out the way that we thought they were going to.
And I think Bogusz, there was definitely times when people were like, get this guy out of here. He's not good enough. He just came in. He had lower expectations, right? Bogusz comes for about $1 million. You're like, oh, if he's good, that's great. But Oliveira has a higher price tag. He obviously comes from Uruguay, where we've shopped previously and had some success. I think, to Travis's point, it's Bogusz just because both players absolutely took a step forward. But to go from scoring a couple goals to being close to the league leader in goals, and it's also not just goals, but goals plus assists, that's a huge step. Like, you don't plan for that.
You just watch him play. The playmaking, setting things up.
The team would have been like, if he scores 8 goals, we'll be excited. And then
there's an argument to be made. He was the most important player of our team on our team this year, right? Like, we couldn't have done this without Mateus Bogusz.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think he wasn't an all-star. He's one of the best players in the league. Easily.
I genuinely think he is.
Yeah.
He wasn't an all-star.
No, I agree. And look, people have been shouting for like the longest time, oh, if we just had that like attacking midfield presence, we'd be a better team. Like, it's Bogusz. Like that's the guy. That's the guy that's been doing that. And then he's
young. He's like,
and you've had
how old is he?
Oliveira pick it up on the wing, and you've got Bouanga on the other wing. Like you've got
It
a lot of
definitely-
things that you want. It's just like we just kind of like it's been under the radar because he's just like it felt like it's been going on for a lot longer than it has.
It definitely changed the nature of what it was like to be without Vela for that long.
That's
For
true.
sure. And that's what he struggled with at the beginning of the season, right? Before he figured out how to fill that void, and he figured it out. And we had an incredible season because of it. So I think Bogusz is probably the correct answer, although Kai Kamara is up there as well. All right. Well, that's our mailbag. When we come back for the last time this regular season, we're going to make some bets and we're going to give Darren some money.
I like that. And we're back. Now it's time for a segment called Bet It and Forget It.
Bet it and forget it.
Every week, we end the show with a bet for this week's game. We make an outlandish prediction, something that almost definitely will not happen, but could. Each week, we all put up $5, and if no one hits, the money rolls over to the next week, and eventually, by the time someone's weird prediction comes true, they might win a good chunk of change. And for the 5th time this season, and the 2nd time after a Vancouver match, one of us did. I bet that Ilya Sanchez would score, and friend of the foot that he is, the man buried an ice-cold game winner at the death, earning 3 points for LAFC and $130 for yours truly.
Yeah, I can't wait to
Darren,
put my bet in for this $15 pot.
Darren, are you ready to claim your prize?
I am.
Sir Darren Miller of Burbank, California, do you accept thou reward of 130 American dollars in USD currency?
I do.
It is my great honor to now bestow unto thee the Bet It and Forget It ceremonial Venmo. Sir Darren, has thou Venmo been received?
Aye.
Our bet pool for this week is now $15.
Woo! Let's go.
$15, huh? Well, we got to win this one.
Well, the thing that's sticking in my mind is when you said earlier, I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before, but earlier you were like, it does not matter what happens if we lose. We're going to throw everything at. We might as well. It's the last home game.
You
Like,
don't want to get injured.
as long as you don't get injured, we're here to party.
But it is like you want to be the 1 seed. You get the bye. You don't have to do the fucking.
Well, there's no bye.
No bye.
just-
Sorry, but you don't have to do
You get
the
to play
game.
you get to play the team that has already played a game and is
you still have to
theoretically
do
tired.
3 game.
Yeah. So what you do is you play the team that is from the playing game, and they're on
I
short
see.
rest. So
I see.
yes, they have already played a game, they've won, and in some worlds, I don't know, that could be a good or bad thing. They might be feeling themselves and being like, "Yeah, let's get
Kansas
right
City
to it."
last year.
Yeah, let's get right to it. But they have to come to you. They have to travel. There's a lot extra, wear and tear on their legs. So there is some benefit. But yes, MLS has seriously downgraded the number 1 spot in both conferences.
So Darren, what was your bet going to be?
Oh, I wasn't saying the beginning of a bet. I was
It
just
sounded like you were.
saying that it was going to be fun. And this
Well-
is like a real bet it and forget it
He was just killing time so he
oriented
could
game.
pull a random bet out of his ass again and win some more money.
Okay, I have one that's fun.
He was so
I
not
mean,
confident for the one bet that he won on this past week.
This bet is funny. I think it's very specific.
But are you confident about it?
No.
Oh,
Whoa.
he's winning.
Hang on.
The bet is this: we will end the season with a higher goal differential than the Galaxy, but we will still be in second place in the West. So we will end the season with a better goal differential than the Galaxy, but we will not beat them because they will have won their game as well.
They could even tie.
Oh.
They could even tie. Correct.
So if they tie, but we win by like 5.
Doesn't
correct.
matter.
Wow. That's a good one.
So if we become first in the West, it no longer matters
Math.
because that it would be the same, right? But it's goal differential, but we're still second.
Fucking nerd.
You went hard on that one.
I did the hard D.
Yeah. It was like the Jocks and Revenge of the Nerds. Like you just really leaned into it.
Yeah, well, When you hear it enough, you can
God,
dish it out.
I'm so not motivated by $15 and so deflated by the fact that Darren won a whopping $130. It's hurting me a little bit.
Listen, this is a good season for me
And
in terms of predictions.
Well, and it's not just that. It's like the prediction you made is one that like I love, like Ilie scoring a goal, and then the way it happened, like there's just I just don't like when you're happy, Darren. Like, I think that's what I'm saying.
Honestly, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it bothers me. It's like if you were watching Winnie the Pooh and like Eeyore waltzed in and was like, "Hey guys," you'd be like, "What the fuck?" No.
Am I normally that down?
No, but I mean, you're like the snuffleupagus of our podcast.
I see.
Also, if you're watching Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore shows up on screen, that's normal.
Huh?
Yeah, but not if he shows up like all happy. Like if Eeyore waltzed in was like, "What's up, guys? How's it going?" You'd be like, "Why are you so happy?"
Saying. I thought you were like, if you're watching Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore fucking shows up, that'd be crazy,
right?
No, it's like if Eeyore shows up and be like, "I fucking told you LA would score."
I was like, do you think Eeyore is like from Futurama?
He would have made a
Give your bets. I did mine.
Oh,
Go.
sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
we're stalling.
God, is there just some
It's
random person that
long.
can score? You know what? Before Darren can say it, Lloris assist.
How could you?
Yep.
I hope it's to Carlos Vela.
Right? I mean, Darren could one up me and be like,
Carlos Vela brace.
"Oh,
Great. It's possible that both me and Darren and Vince could all hit in the same
that's
week.
true." Oh,
Just
can't wait
take
to
our money
split
back.
that $15 with you guys.
Well,
Was mine outlandish enough?
Yeah, we're having fun.
Yes, he hasn't played a game all season. He's not going to come and
I
score
don't
2
know.
goals.
Well, I don't know. As someone who can predict the future when it comes to LAFC,
Right.
it just seems like it's obviously going to happen to me. So
Darren, you have to edit a lot tonight, so let's end the show. Their theme music is done by the Ixame team. The theme music is done by the Ixame team of James Valentine, Nate Walcott, and Louis Palmer. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@happyfootsadfoot. Follow us on all the things. You can review us all the places. And if you made it this far in the episode and you've enjoyed our season of shows and you want to say thank you to us for providing you this incredible content, please feel free to become a friend of the foot over at patreon.com/happyfootsadfoot, which we now have a thriving Discord around as well. You can also buy merch over at happyfootsadfootpod.com. We got to figure out what we're going to do with these scarves. We got a few left over on the season. We should figure out a way to give them out to folks because we're not going to sell them next year. The whole deal is they're only for this season. So we got a couple left. If you want one in your Patreon subscriber,
buy them or win them. Also, real quick, you're not just saying thank you. You're also contributing to us being able to level up and take the show to the next level and grow in all the ways that will then come back to you and be really cool.
Did you go to a marketing conference?
We had some feedback discussion in the Discord, and people were talking about like new things that would be fun to see. And it's like the more resources we have, the more that we can do. And there's more than just like a recap and a preview that we would do for each game if we could. And if we can, then there's a lot of cool stuff that we have just stored away in our brains and Google Docs that we don't do because we can't do it yet.
That's a great point, Darren. I'm sorry for discrediting it.
That's okay.
Well, any support really goes a long way, keeping the show going and the community growing. And also just tell a friend about us. Yeah. I feel like that's the best way, right? Just tell a friend. Thanks again. And we'll see the three of us will be at the tailgate on Saturday. So we'll see ya at BMO, baby. I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
I will have bodyguards.
Bet it and forget it.